Hi, everyone. Welcome back to
Welcome back to
Between the
Between the
Joneses.
Joneses. That's always a good laugh.
It is. It really sets the mood.
Welcome back, everyone. To those that have been listening, we appreciate you. All right, our topic today, this is kind of a heavy one, but I think it's going to create some really great conversation and hopefully generate some more dialogue around the issue of the normalization of toxic behaviors. And I think before we dive into where we see the normalization of toxic behaviors, I believe we should probably define two important things. The first one being, what does toxic actually mean? What do you think, Jess?
I know what toxic means to me might mean something completely differently to you. I don't know. I think there's a baseline of toxic behaviors that as a society, we probably would all be like, yes, that would be toxic. Physical abuse, I think, would be toxic.
Yes, 100%.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Verbal
That's
abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse is toxic.
100%. So any sort of like action that is going to cause any sort of harm, emotional, psychological, even social harm, toxic behaviors that we'll see in social settings, which I hope we get to dive into here in a minute.
Yeah, that's a big one too, though, because I've heard so many times, well, I'm not harming you physically. And I go, that doesn't mean you're not harming a person psychologically. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that you're not harming the person. Yes, physically, emotionally, psychologically, that is toxic.
Right. And I think it's when it becomes repeated, it becomes a pattern, this consistent thing that's happening. And what also affirms this and why we see it so much is because it's accepted.
Right. We
We socially,
justify it.
culturally have accepted it.
Yeah, for sure.
So just some kind of like baseline toxic behaviors, and you kind of touched on them, like manipulation,
Mm,
dismissiveness,
mm-hmm.
exploitation, I think would be
Yep.
another great one.
Yep.
Cruelty that's disguised as humor. This is a huge one for me.
Give me an example.
Just jokes that are made at the expense of someone else.
Yeah.
Sexist jokes, gender stereotype jokes.
So
I
do
mean, we still,
do comedians bother you? Or is that different?
I think it's different personally. I try not, only because it's an art form, and so I try to be a little bit more, I try to see that through like a critical lens where like sometimes,
Like the creative process, it's more of an art than I'm trying to bash
yes,
you.
yes. I think it can be done well, and it can be done in a way that I do. I mean, I think you can tell, when someone's just like enjoying their craft and like they're trying to get some laughs, right? But then there's other times where I feel like people are actually like ruthless and trying to be mean.
I just looked up the definition toxic really quick and I want to read what it says.
Yes,
Toxic,
please, please do.
of pertaining to affected with or caused by a toxin or poison, acting or having the effect of a poison. So, like a toxic drug. We haven't even gotten to that. Causing
Right.
unpleasant feelings, harmful or malicious. A toxic boyfriend who wanted complete control over her. That's just the example in this little dictionary.com. And then finally, finance. So, I
Oh,
mean,
that one
it
threw me
could
for a loop.
every spectrum. Well, pertaining to or noting debt that will probably not be repaid. Toxic mortgage.
Yeah. So, and I think it's what's tough here is sometimes these types of toxicity are really subtle, and they've kind of just become like this background noise of everyday life, you
Well, I'm
know?
going to add to that because that makes me think of alcohol, and I know we touched a little bit about it. It's toxic is also a noun. It says a toxic chemical or other substance. I think alcohol has really been normalized.
Yeah, and as you were reading that's the first thing that came to mind. I was like, oh, just the alcoholics, like the normalization of consuming alcohol regularly.
I mean, and it's everywhere. We're bombarded with advertising. propaganda. I mean, go out, go down the street, go to your gas stations. You know what I'm seeing a lot of where I live? I mean, I couldn't tell you how many vape shops that I see now.
Yeah, we have a lot here too in
It's
Athens.
like, it's just kind you know, when you kind of are awake a little bit more and you start kind of seeing things, you really can't undo those things. You can't undo seeing those things.
And
So yeah,
I want to take a moment to also pause on, because I just said like alcoholics, and when we're falling into like addiction, we are getting into the realm of disease there, and so I want to be sensitive to that because I'm not trying to like shame. I think that's
sure.
really important for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I'm an addictions counselor, so I can separate the person, right, that's consuming it versus like the toxic culture of the people advertising and telling you to have another one. Because, I mean, look at the Sackler family with the opioid epidemic. Like, he should be in jail.
Well, yeah, that was crazy.
No shame on this podcast.
No shame. All right, then the second thing I think we've figured out what toxic means. Now we need to talk about what it means to normalize something. And for me, this is when the behavior becomes so common that we don't even question it anymore, right? We're just like, oh, that's just how it works, or this is how everybody does it. If you can't handle it, maybe it's just not for you,
Right. Yeah.
right? Like, it's just, and it doesn't mean like something is healthy either. Like, it just means we've accepted it as a standard.
Right. Yeah. Has anything come to mind for you that you've been through maybe recently or in your something that you remember?
Yeah, one big thing that's coming up only because I've kind of going through a recovery of a small injury in my shoulder. I went to get manipulation done at our local osteopathic manipulator. My shoulder blade was stuck. Anyways, I was talking about my prior injuries and how was swimming butterfly in high school, and I dislocated my rotator cuff. And she's like, "And what was the protocol after you got injured?" I'm like, "Well, they just popped it back in place and told me to keep swimming."
Yeah.
And she just laughed. She like laughed, and we both kind of took a moment to laugh because it was absurd. It was like, and I said it out loud, and I was like, "That doesn't even sound right." Like, I should have been taken out of the water. I should have gone to see like a trainer, a therapist, like immediately, gotten assessed. So for me, that's what comes to mind. Just kind of like this pushing through the pain,
Which,
normalization.
we are going to be talking about it in part two of this because we're going to talk about the toxic behaviors, the normalization of toxic behaviors in sports, and
Hmm.
injury is a big one, like pushing through the injury. Lindsey Vaughn
Yeah,
is like a huge example right now. It's like at what cost are you doing these things
right. So
or
what about you?
listening to these
Any that
people?
come to mind?
I think for me, like again, this is sports, but coaches,
Hmm.
adults, we tend to accept adults the way they act and behave just because they're an adult. Same thing with elders. I remember we were told like respect your elders, and I always question that because for me I'm like, well, some of my elders were not good people. They did some harmful things.
Yeah,
So
I
that
feel
that
that.
comes to mind.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good example. All right, so let's talk about why toxic behaviors spread. Then we'll kind of get into some examples and then just different things that, you know, I try to do, you try to do, that others might be able to do to try to, just confront it and hopefully impart a little change in this world, positive change. So, when we were looking at the definition of toxic, one of the things that came up was it's enforced through repetition, right? We just kind of keep doing it over and over again until it feels normal to us. So, the example might be like the hustle culture that we see in the workforce,
Hmm.
public shaming people online. So, like how we've gotten to this habit of canceling people.
Or just saying whatever we want to about people online.
Yes. And then another big one is the constant comparison through social media, which has been a topic of ours in the past, which we've discussed. But it's almost like this invisible thing that's happening. Would you
Yeah.
agree or disagree with
Yeah.
that?
Well, I was gonna agree with and add to like why we accept the toxic behavior. I have written down here authority pressure, right? People follow leaders even when behavior is harmful. I mean, look, turn on the TV. Groupthink. Nobody wants to be the one who
Think,
speaks up.
right,
Tradition, culture. This is how it's always been done.
right.
And then finally, I have here just reward systems. If toxic behavior leads to success, people justify it.
100%. And right there, the way you're kind of bulleting those out, that those are like all these different systems in place,
Yeah,
right? So that it's coming from the top down. So and you nailed it by saying the authority. It's like these power structures.
yeah. Well, and there was a famous this research. His name was Stanley Milgram, and his famous Milgram experiment on obedience to authority. Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
I'll just read this really quick. I learned this in college in one of my psychology classes, but the Milgram experiment was a landmark series of social psychology studies conducted by Stanley Milgram at Yale University in the early 60s. Designed to explore obedience to authority, it revealed that ordinary individuals would follow orders. So there was a guy like in a white who looked like a doctor. He had like a white lab coat on. Would follow orders to inflict what they believed were painful electric shocks on another person. The findings profoundly influenced understandings of morality, authority, and ethical standards in research. I won't read all of it, but it goes on to say that 65 of the participants continued to do the maximum voltage despite the visible moral conflict. Yes. So,
Yeah, so the power there, the power is protecting the system. So the power is in the doctor's hands.
mhm,
And
the authority.
yeah, the authority. And if you question it, questioning has also been kind of not encouraged. When you're questioning is risk,
Because fear is
essentially.
instilled. Yeah, why don't people speak up more for themselves? Because there's fear. I think for
Or
some, go ahead.
they don't think they have the power to have a voice, too.
Right, right. The confidence.
So I definitely believe that when someone benefits from a toxic system, they're going to protect it.
Right, and there is a gradual escalation effect. So toxic behavior usually grows step by step. It starts with a mild disrespect, then that leads to a normalized aggression, and then finally an institutional acceptance. People adapt slowly to worsening conditions.
That's messed up. And one thing that's coming to mind is like the first one that I think we should talk about is work culture, like productivity culture.
Yep. And that moves on to silence protects toxicity. So why don't people speak up? The fear of punishment, social rejection, losing opportunities, being labeled as soft or difficult. I hear that one all the time, like
Hmm.
over the years.
Or like, yeah, fear of losing a job, maybe
Right.
getting fired, especially now. It's like people are struggling just to find work, so you kind of have to put up with certain behaviors so you can get paid.
Fitting in's a big one. I think why people are silent. Yeah, and I do think a lot of people fear punishment. I mean, this will be a big one with kids and coaches because unfortunately, a lot of coaches instill the fear at a very young age. So they become conditioned, and parents, they become conditioned.
Right. And that's just really sad to me.
Yeah, it really is. So
All right, so you're talking about, what were your last bullet points on that? You were talking about,
silence protects toxicity, and then finally, cultural reinforcement. Toxic behaviors become normalized when they are rewarded, like we said, celebrated, ignored. Those seem like three extremes. Where's the balance?
I know. Oh my gosh.
So,
All
like
right, so,
workplace burnout culture is a big one. Toxic
yep,
leadership, hazing traditions, and there's
yeah,
hazing traditions outside of sports too.
that's true. We see that even like fraternity, sorority,
Yes,
like
yes,
any sort of initiation into something, a club, organization, there may or may not be.
yep.
Okay, so I think we've identified, some toxic behaviors we see in the workplace. We've definitely touched upon this where we see it normalized in social media and comparison culture. Just to add just a couple more points on that, validation dependence,
Hmm.
right? So, like, likes and views become a measure of worth, which I think is something that needs to be discussed and called out. Outrage as currency is another one. So, like anger, where people like view other people getting angry. I've seen that a lot, especially on TikTok. There's like, oh, my professor is crashing out. Look at my professor crashing out.
I
And
think
then like
fights
just
too.
what is
There's
it?
fights,
Yeah.
violence.
So those are just a couple that I wanted to add to the comparison culture and social media that just kind of created entirely new spaces. So these are like new spaces where toxic behaviors are being reaffirmed and then again normalized within our daily interactions. And then I think we should move on to emotional and like relationship behaviors, and these show up in how we communicate with each other. And this is not just personal relationships, this could be like any relationship that, like anyone that you might interact with throughout your day. Passive aggressiveness is the first one that comes to mind.
Been there.
Yes. Emotional unavailability, but framed as strength. And so that's just like, to me, I just see that as a form of detachment.
Yeah.
Um, this is another big one, especially now that we all have phones. Ghosting. So, like the avoidance replacing communication, like ghosting or stonewalling someone.
Stonewalling, yep.
Silence instead of honest.
Well, so I can speak on behalf of that because that's happened to me personally, and it's a form of manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a form of control. And a lot of times when people ghost or stonewall, they're avoiding, right? Like going back to like the avoidant attachment, they run away,
Right.
they escape. It's easier for them to run out the door than to have an effective dialogue,
Absolutely.
which is toxic, which is
Yeah, and it
toxic.
hurts because it hurt.
Yeah, it's not always easy to have difficult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like having a conversation where you may not agree is a skill and still be able to like keep this dynamic. It's not easy. It's not easy
No,
for a
it's
lot of
not.
people.
Right, because I do believe we want to avoid, like, because we see disagreement as a negative, I think. There are times where you can just, let's just agree to disagree.
And I think people think they're right.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm right, you're wrong. If you're wrong, then we are at a disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really challenging for people to move forward in that space.
Mm-hmm. Well, it takes the ability to remove ego from the equation.
Yeah, and I'd love to dive into the ego at some point. Yeah, I think your ego takes over everything. Where then at that point doesn't even matter anything. You're just in that state of it's almost like how would you describe it? Toxic.
Well, yeah, that what is the ego, allowing the ego to surface is at the same time allowing the reaffirming of all these behaviors that are harmful to others. So another one I wanted to just briefly touch upon is expecting unlimited access to someone's time and energy. And this one as a mother is really hitting home for me lately because we are conditioned and trained to believe that all access all the time is what makes you strong and a good mother.
Yeah, it's almost expected.
Hmm.
That's part of your role.
And maybe you can share a little bit about your experience on that. Yeah, that's a tough one because you have to set the boundary for yourself, right? That's a choice.
So for me, I used to be told I was selfish for going to the gym or getting a facial or doing things for myself.
Hmm.
And that took some time to where I was defending myself, like, no, actually, and like, I think I don't think selfish. I think when people say the word selfish, most people see it as a negative connotation. I don't
Yeah.
I don't see it that way. I think, and especially mothers, I think you need to have some sort of autonomy
Hmm.
and space for your own needs.
And bottom
It's no
line, I think
wonder women, sorry, I was gonna say, it's no wonder women get and go to psychosis. Like, I understand the overwhelming feelings that come with being a mother.
hmm
And just being a mother alone, I'm not even talking about a mother and a career. Just the role that mothers play, or the primary caregiver, was a big taking.
yeah, it's boundary disrespect,
Hmm.
but it's also it's happening because me, I'm not drawing the line. I'm not allowing that boundary to be set because of these
Your
normalized
societal
behaviors that I'm kind
norm.
of, yeah, I'm conforming to them. And we had this conversation, on my way home from work the other day, just and talking about sacrifice and how it's to the point where it can be harmful. It's like harming me.
Hmm. Well, yeah, and like, I put the line, well, I just said I got to the point where I believe two things can be true. I can still be a good mother and take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
When I don't take care of myself, I don't like how I feel. I'm just a different person. So I need to put those boundaries in place, those routines in place for myself so I can be about
Mm-hmm.
a better mother.
Yeah, and it can be tough because once you've already set the expectation to try and go back and rearrange everything and reestablish with your needs in mind as well, it can be hard for other people to acclimate to those new boundaries that have been set in place. Another topic I think is worth also discussing is technology and our attention to it, and how we've kind of normalized unhealthy patterns around attention when it comes to our attention. I'm talking about, so like doom scrolling, as people call it, just consuming stress-inducing content like compulsively, and that I see a lot, especially in this area. And I'm not trying to get into politics or anything, but it can definitely rile people up, get them all in a frenzy.
And your energy shifts when you doom scroll.
Hmm.
It's an,
So I've been
an
trying.
addicting thing. It's an addicting
Yeah,
thing to do.
and you have to be really conscious about it. Like I try to be really conscious. I have screen time limits. I've set those on myself as well, like on my kids. Not even that I have that big of an issue with it because we didn't grow up with it the way our kids are growing up with it now.
Yeah, they're
So I don't
bombarded.
I don't struggle with it, I think, the way some people do. What about you? Do you
I don't.
doom scroll?
Yeah, so I mean, yes, I do. I do. And lately it's been just with my profession of wanting to hear like other doctors speak specifically about
Hmm.
addictions. So, and I'm all about like attachment and ego. So yeah, I do. And then food's a big one for me. And you tend to, whatever you type in the algorithm, then you're receiving that in your scrolls. So like my algorithm right now is, processed food, glyphosate's a big one. Um, Addictions, attachment, and just like relational problems.
Hmm.
I do not set limits, and like we don't allow, like, so the kids don't have phones and we don't allow most of the day ever, like there's no technology allowed on like that, and that goes for the TV. So it's almost been normalized in the other direction just because we've never approached it, or they've never been introduced to phones.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying stay away. I think a lot of parents can wait though. An 8-year old
Hmm.
should not have a phone.
No. And it's also feeding into another type of toxic behavior that I've seen with my daughter and her peers, is like this surveillance level of availability, like reading receipts, like when you send a text. A big one is location tracking. They do a lot of
Read the text.
yeah, location tracking, like they all know where everyone's at. I just think that is like bizarre to me,
It
very bizarre.
is.
Um
I'm like, how do
and then
you
that
have time?
instant reply.
Why do you want to know? Like, what is, yeah, it's, I think that can be really obsessive. Like you're fiending it. Did they read my text?
Yeah, and then it's breeding lack of trust. I think
Yeah,
that's what that's playing into.
right, right. Sure. It kind of all
Uh,
goes together. It really does.
yeah, so let's kind of transition here. Just talking a little bit about power, conflict, and control, like looping it back to the authority, which was kind of the first, our first talking point about this. But really bringing it back to, what some kind of behaviors that we see that authority figures have done and that have now become very normal as far as like power. We equate it with power.
And
So
success.
the and success. And so like the first one for me is equating loudness with authority.
I think of basketball right away.
So the most dominant voice will win, right? So what's your basketball example?
I just every time I've watched like college or like I've seen a commercial like college basketball, especially the women.
Mm-hmm.
There's one college basketball coach, and she just like screams, and people are like, "Yeah, look at her and her passion," and I'm like, she looks scary. I don't know, but I just see things through a different lens, and I just don't agree with that. The loudest coaches to me, I feel like need the most work. Well, and you can
That's so
be.
true.
I'm not saying that I've never been like I like when I'm coaching basketball, I'm like the things that I'm saying is like get back, like run back. Like the boys are 10-year-olds, so they need kind of I'm walking. They
Mm-hmm.
need that little pep talk of I need to run back to get back to defense. But no,
Right.
like slamming the clipboard on the ground, throwing chair. I mean, Bobby Knight used to do stuff like that. So
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
a
agree.
really
I
great
just think that's
example.
fear.
That's fear. Another one is, and I've experienced this too in the youth sports realm, and we can dive into that deeper part too, but conflict avoidance, like at all costs. So just prioritizing peace over truth, right? So prioritizing peace to the point that you're not even allowing any discourse to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So like almost like that forced silence.
I think that happens a lot with athletes. I do
Yes.
that power struggle, that dynamic. I think a lot of athletes, children, teens
Mm-hmm.
do this, and that's
Yeah, like
sad.
I don't even want to face that conflict. I can't even face it.
Yeah, I mean, I've just through the years have heard kids be like, "Mom, I don't want to go talk to that coach," or "No, let's just go, let's just leave." And again, that's such a disservice to that environment and just life in and of itself because that's teaching that child to not speak up,
Right.
which then gets in the way of their confidence, which
Yeah,
absolutely, go ahead.
we don't teach conflict management
We do not.
like at all. And that comes back to like these other kind of like, oh, this is just we don't talk about that. We don't like that the kind of normalized things within institution, especially educational institutions, like, oh, this is just the way it's been. We don't talk about that. We don't need to talk about that.
Look at a big one that comes to mind was the gymnastics scandal.
Mm,
The USA Gymnastics during the scandal involving Larry Nasser. Remember him? That creep of a man. I
yes.
mean, they knew about it and just overlooked it. And dang,
That
he's serving life in prison. Good for that judge.
good. Yeah, good. Another big one with like power is the way we treat service workers. I see this a lot in the community.
Give an example.
Just blatant disrespect to someone who is making like your Chipotle order.
Yeah, that's so sad to me. Yeah,
Just and I hate to call her out, but mom will do this sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
Anytime we go out to eat, it's always something, and it's like this talking down to them
The tone.
because they're there to serve me.
Yeah,
And that's just disrespect. It's
yeah.
just,
It's wrong, and it's wrong. Like the tone, the way you deliver that message, it's just it's not right. I'm
it's
so
not.
sick of like sugarcoating things too. I've realized I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do that
Good.
anymore. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's just wrong.
it's just wrong. I'm sick of justifying certain behaviors. Wrong is wrong.
Right. And for me, it's like, that's bad manners. Like, that's just in poor taste.
Oh my
You're
goodness.
having bad manners right now.
Yeah, well,
All
like in
right.
her instance, like self-reflection though, her self-awareness is lacking. I really think in her mind she's not doing anything wrong.
No, yeah. And I think in a lot of people's minds, that's again like how normalized it is. It's like we've always done it this way. I'm coming in here. I'm paying for them to serve me, so I'm allowed to treat them any way that I want.
Right. I've also seen it the other way too, where the service people are like not great to the customer
Mm,
or the guest. Yes. There's like a
yeah,
sense,
I see that a lot. That's true. It works both ways because the behaviors have gotten out of control that they're not going to take it either. The service workers, they're I see more service workers like standing up for themselves or yeah, retaliating with even more toxic behavior.
right?
So what can we do about it?
Yeah, how do we change the normalization of toxic behaviors? I think one is awareness and naming the behavior.
Yeah, so you got to recognize it like in the moment, which can be really hard to do.
What's a big one for you? What's one that you can recognize the behavior as toxic?
Okay, and this is something recently that happened, but someone that I play volleyball with on Fridays, we have a lot of international students that play with us, and he was just making fun of the way he talks because he talks with an accent, like an Indian accent. And he was, because the Indian, my friend who's from India, he keeps track of the score, and the way he was saying the score, nobody could understand. And then this one person who I play with regularly, he was like almost mocking it back to him, like what the score was, like in his accents. And I was just like, I just called him out in the moment. I'm like, don't do that. That's really rude.
What was the behavior that you witnessed? Like the name calling?
I witnessed, no, it was like mocking, ridicule. Like it was, cruelty that was disguised as humor, basically.
Mm,
He's like, oh, he knows I'm just messing with him. And I
was
was
he?
just like, I mean, yes, he does, but then he's also just like, my Indian friend has gotten to the point where like he's just accepted that this person acts this way and he just doesn't pay any mind to it.
I'm sure he suppresses some of those feelings too. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So for me, that's like the first example that comes to mind. What about you?
Well, I was going to say many toxic behaviors persist because they are labeled as something positive. So, like toughness, tradition, discipline.
Mm, yeah.
And like once you call it what it actually is, the narrative begins to shift.
Yeah. So recognizing, naming it, like so for me in my example, it's like naming it. That was cruel.
Yeah, so language is powerful. We've said that. Language is powerful. If we change how we label behaviors, we change how people judge them.
Yeah. We have to name it. You have to name it. Naming it creates a level of awareness.
Yes,
And if the other person who might be the doer isn't even aware, at least naming it now, you're calling them out, hopefully in a respectful way. Just all I'm doing is just naming what I'm seeing.
right. And the example I was going to get use, and again, this will also dive into the next episode. When athletes, though, like Simone Biles, she openly discussed mental health at the 2020 Summer Olympics. It
Right.
forced the conversation about athlete well-being. But I remember when
Mm-hmm.
it first came out, she was criticized for
She
like, oh,
was.
you're in the Olympics, you have all everything, and she was judged. She was criticized. I think I also think she was silenced, or people made her question if
Mm-hmm.
she should come out and talk about it. But that was a big deal for her.
Right. And that's tough because of the level she's on. The media is like she's like a celebrity. She's an athletic celebrity, so they're on her.
And
So she
like,
has a lot of public watching her.
and so it goes, I dug in a little bit about her. She has spoken openly about therapy, resilience,
Mm-hmm.
and self-care. Her advocacy
Nice.
extends to survivors of abuse and children in foster care, and she continues to mentor younger athletes. And that's going to be another big topic we talk about, is a lot of what you're experiencing, and maybe for her in the gymnastic space could be coming from her childhood.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing with Athens Elite is to be the mentor that I never had, essentially.
Yeah, and I think that's great. We need more of,
Help mentor these girls.
yes,
I've got some boys in there too, but it's mostly females right now. All right, so next thing, so we name it, we recognize it, we create awareness.
leadership accountability. Culture rarely changes from the bottom up alone. So change usually requires coaches, team management, league leadership, governing organizations.
But they're helping to enforce to set boundaries in place that protect energy and well-being, right? Not for the one, but for the many, for the whole.
Well, if leadership rewards healthy behavior instead of toxic behavior, the culture follows. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're saying. We don't see that. Oftentimes we see the toxic behavior being rewarded. So the culture
Right.
follows. So we need to reverse that. Reward the healthy behavior.
Yep.
And I use this
And
example
that's,
all the time too, like even with our healthcare system, we should be
mm-hmm.
rewarding people that take care of themselves.
I know.
I think it's starting to change. I think it's starting to change, but I think it should be drastically changed.
But yeah, like praise that effort, all that it takes to sustain that daily work ethic, to the commitment to your health.
Yes.
Yeah, so, really trying to set the boundaries, not, I mean, I guess it is setting the boundary to reject the behavior, but also to like re-clarify, like what behaviors are going to be accepted and not accepted and labeled as harmful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if you're unable to find that in your current wherever you are in your life, then you got to seek, I would say next step would be you got to seek healthier environments.
Yes. Like be okay with changing. Let me take this dog out. Hold on. Yeah, be okay with change. Yeah, so I would say one example would be maybe you're with, it's funny how we always kind of revert back to the sports setting, but let's say there's things that have happened within your club organization that
Mm-hmm.
are toxic. I think a great way to lead would be to remove yourself and find another place to be.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not aligned, trust that alignment and move on.
Right. Because not every system is going to change for you
That's
individually.
right.
So that just means you gotta grow, and you gotta find another space where people can collaborate freely, or rest is respected, or like the immediacy of responding right away is not expected,
I had
or where mistakes are treated as learning too.
right. I responded to somebody, I think she doesn't have kids. She looks young to me, but she posted a video basically saying if your kid is late to a tournament, she's not going to play.
Mm,
And I go,
harsh.
yeah, I've said being having a mom as a single parent raising four kids and having a full-time job. What did I say? It was really good though. But I was just basically saying you can still have accountability and understand that people face a lot of challenges within their family home. And I go at the
Mm-hmm.
end, I go, how unfortunate I feel for your athletes because you're
Did
punishing
she
them.
respond?
No, but it's like you're punishing a child for something they have no control over.
Yeah, that's
I
just
mean,
illogical to me.
yeah, anyway, that made me think of that.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up, because that's the same thing I felt when I went into the club coaching environment here. It did not align. And we've discussed this before. I was seeing some toxic behaviors. So that's why I was like, I gotta seek healthier environments. And then that's when I was like, maybe I just create the environment I'm looking for.
Yeah, and
And that was great. I felt really empowered. Like I can actually create exactly what I'm looking for.
yeah. Well, and it just makes me think of my personal life. Like, let's say I'm late for my workout 5 minutes. Does that mean I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
work out less because I was running behind 5 minutes? Absolutely not. I mean, the logic behind it, but we get so caught up in societal norms and like the way my coach coached me or the way that business was run
Mm-hmm.
be the right way, and or we've had so much success so it must be the end all be all, and I don't agree.
I agree. Yeah, we just, that kind of leads me into my next point as far as what can we do, and it's modeling that behavior that we want to see.
Having empathy,
Which,
I think, with that specific is having understanding,
yep,
not jumping.
normalizing empathy. So it's like all these negative behaviors. Now we need to start normalizing those kind of positive behaviors that we want to see, like empathy, accountability,
And this
clear and
doesn't mean
direct communication.
we're asking people to be perfect. What I'm saying, and I feel like you're also saying, is can we do things that are less destructive and possibly healthier for
Hmm.
the well-being of everyone?
I believe we can.
I do too.
Small, and that's why it can come back to your individual imprint that you're going to leave. And small actions can create new norms,
They can. Yep.
even if it's just within your small community. I
Agreed.
think it's small changes. The more we do it, the more people are, I think, they feel that difference. And that to me is important, like that feeling that they're getting. All right, so I guess some closing thoughts here. The goal isn't really to label everything as toxic. Okay, that's not the goal, but the goal is to start paying attention to patterns that happen that we've stopped questioning. Okay, because the moment I feel like we recognize that it's normalized toxicity, we definitely regain something really powerful. And that is confidence in yourself, choice, knowing you have a choice too. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think?
To just redefine what is acceptable. We said that. Encourage speaking up. So when
Mm-hmm.
individuals like challenge harmful comments, report abuse, support whistleblowers, accountability systems. Who are you next to? Like, are you around like-minded individuals that we want to work together? Workplace harassment policies, anti-discrimination laws, athlete safety protocols. What are your accountability systems? Education and socialization was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Media and cultural narratives. Films, news, and social media can either glorify toxic behaviors, go watch a movie,
Mm.
or challenge them.
Yeah. I see a
Lead,
lot of glorifying.
lot of it. Leadership and role models. Public figures do influence cultural norms. And then finally, collective cultural pressure. Normalization breaks down when enough people refuse to participate.
Yep. Which comes down to that refusal is a choice. You have to make that choice. You can choose to build a healthier environment for yourself. And I don't mean just the external environment that you're in, but also that internal environment. Because when you're on the receiving end of toxic behavior, you have a bodily response. I do.
I do.
I had some guy cuss me out last in-house league season because I let an eighth grade boy play with my girls because he had nowhere else to go to play. Chewing me out in front of everybody, in front of children.
No.
And my heart started racing. I started to feel like just not great. So, really building that internal healthy environment.
Not just,
In conclusion, not just for yourself, but for also the people who are around you, who you are sharing your space with.
right, right. I'm sure that was scary for anyone around that to witness.
Yeah, as soon as our interaction was done, I went to the side. I like found a little hole basically to just like cry in. I just like that was my bodily response. I was just verbally accosted in public. I didn't set a boundary. I allowed it to happen.
Mm.
And then now this is how my body is responding to it.
Well, in closing, the behaviors a society tolerates today become the norms of tomorrow. Changing
Mm-hmm.
normalization begins when enough people decide that normal isn't good enough. So for me, it's
And,
what am I doing in my community? Like, what am I doing in my little or big space? What can I control to make a difference of changing toxic behaviors? And it really does start with me
mm-hmm.
because I can't control anybody else, but I can control what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully that will spread.
Yeah, I think so. Modeling is key because people, especially children, they look up. They want to have someone they can look up to that inspires them. To want to achieve things, to be the greatest they can possibly be. So I think you're doing that. Absolutely. Just being present and available to coach these teams that you've been coaching, like for your kids.
And professionally too, I feel a calling to just to be a space of just a safe space for
Mm-hmm.
people as well.
That's some. Yeah, that's really important to me too. And we can dive into that when we get into part two, where we hyper focus on toxic behaviors within the sports realm, youth sports realm.
Big one.
It's a big one. And we're both in
Huge.
that realm.
Yeah, we are.
And we've been in that realm since we were child competitive athletes.
Yes.
So we definitely have like a full spectrum
40 years.
experience and voice. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Come again.
The normalization of toxic behaviors.
We wanted to say we have been getting comments and people saying what we should talk about. So if you are watching and you do have an episode or something that you want us to talk about, please share with us. We'd love to hear from you.
And don't forget to click like and subscribe.
You can find us on Instagram at Between the Joneses.
Yes, follow us. Queen Slay. Oh my God. Sorry, that was Meta's influence on me.
That's so funny. All right, I love you.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Love you. Bye.